And welcome back to The Rock, and it's all about the number crunching this morning. As you can see, the board here at The Rock, and constantly changing numbers, constantly being updated. This, of course, as the counting proceeds. So as it stands right now, the number of voting districts completed at this point, 16.1%. And just looking at some of the other numbers, if you can just take a look here at the screen, tells you what the statistics are panning out like at this point. And this, of course, as for the National Assembly race, and the ANC is still in the lead, 53.04% at 16.1% of voting districts completed, and that's followed by the DA at 27.93, the EFF at 7.67. And then you have the comparison here to my right, and you can see how these parties have fared over time. The ANC, for example, in 1999, 66.35. In 2004, they polled at 69.69. That's when they had the two-thirds majority. 65.90 in 2009, and 2014, 62.15. So Dr. Ndumiso Cingo is back with me here from the CSIR, and we just want to also take a look at some of the numbers as they pertain to the provincial legislatures, and of course the number of seats that will be needed for a party, a number of votes rather, for a party to gain a seat in Parliament. So we'll be trying to predict all of that at this point. But let's just start here by taking a look again, Dr. Cingo. We're in the National Assembly here now. Has there been any change at 16.1%? Let's just run very briefly through your prediction again.
So our prediction at this stage still stands in the order that we gave earlier on. The top three parties appear to be ANC, DA, and followed by the EFF. And the percentages are still roughly the same as well, at about 57 or 58 and 22 for DA. So the 57, 58 is the ANC, DA 22%, and EFF just over 9%.
And this will make for some interesting analysis, of course, when one looks at the DA holding steady, the ANC seemingly dropping marginally, and then the EFF growing, but also the smaller parties, and the Freedom Front Plus, perhaps worth a mention here, coming in at fourth at this stage. And if you look at the Freedom Front Plus and where they were previously compared to where they are now, it seems as though they've gained significantly. But the question is, where are they gaining from? Because the traditional answer would have been perhaps from the DA, but it's seemingly not, because the DA is holding steady.
Well, this is what the numbers are telling us at this point in time. The Freedom Front Plus its support is also close to the margin of error, as I told you so earlier on. And what we find is that those parties that are small, they are within the margin of error. So it may be the Freedom Front Plus may have gained from the other smaller parties. We don't know at this stage. We would like to see, with more results coming in, if that number changes for Freedom Front Plus.
And very interesting dynamic between the NFP and the IFP as well. The IFP seemingly gaining and the NFP losing.
It appears so that the NFP at this stage does not appear in the top 7. The IFP is there. I think it's just after the Freedom Front Plus, and it would seem that the numbers are such that the IFP has gained, and one would expect that they have taken that support from somewhere. We'll see how that goes. And
then looking at your prediction for number 7 with the Good Party, and that's the new kid on the block. And when Good comes in at 0.4%, what does that say for the other smaller parties?
So again, I want to caution that the smaller parties are very difficult to predict because of the numbers and then being within the margin of error. However, when one looks at the Good Party at this stage, it's standing at about 0.4% of the national vote, which is a relatively small number. If you then think of the rest of the other smaller parties, it would seem that their support may have been taken by the bigger parties.
Interesting one. Okay, let's look at those number of seats that may be required to gain a seat in the votes required for a seat in the National Assembly. So what are we seeing at this time?
So the last time we checked, and I still need to confirm this with my colleagues, it was standing at around 48,000 votes required for the seat. And from the calculations we have done, we see that the number of seats per party, let's just take the top three. It would seem the ANC would then add that 57%, have 229 seats, and the DA 86, the EFF 38 seats.
So interesting. And just looking at how it's panning out provincially, I'm not sure if you've crunched those numbers as yet for the provincial results. And starting perhaps as we go in alphabetical order with the Eastern Cape, and this with 25.69% of voting districts declared. We see the ANC there leading the pack yet again, 69.46%. The DA at 17.66%, EFF 6.34%. But what's your list saying?
So our list, it has not been updated as yet. So I still have the 18.8% votes counted, and the prediction still is that the ANC will keep the Eastern Cape with a comfortable margin of 70.36%. Then they'll be followed by the DA at 15.74%, and then the EFF at 6.78%. That's in the Eastern Cape.
Generally, we try to compare apples with apples. So we'll look from one general election to the next, and not necessarily from your municipal or your local government elections and compare that with your national elections. So let's just take a look at that. Would it be worthwhile doing that sort of comparison?
It may very well have some value. I think there are certain things that you can take from a local government election in terms of national support. For example, for the ANC, I think in the 2016 national government, local government elections, it was roughly at about 54.5% national support. So if one looks at that and compares it to what is projected now, going up to 57%, one may say that sentiment has turned positively in favor of the ANC in that respect. But if you're doing 2014 to 2019, then it's that difference that we spoke about of 62 to 57.
Let's run through those provinces now with your predictions of how it might stack up. So at the moment, what are your predictions looking like?
So there are some provinces that still have very few voting districts declared. Limpopo, for example, Gauteng as well, KwaZulu-Natal. So we don't have results that we feel we can share at this stage. But the Western Cape appears to be
33.38% we're standing at the moment, voting districts completed in the Western Cape right now.
Yes, and I think from our results, we see that in the Western Cape, the DA appears to be holding on to the province. In terms of comparisons, I don't have the numbers as yet, but they do appear to be holding on to the province.
And then, of course, the opposition here is quite interesting because as it stands right now, if we look at the Western Cape legislature, you have the DA, as Dr. Cingo is saying, they would hold on there. At the moment, these are the real-time figures as per the actual number of votes. And then we're looking at the DA there at 58.81. Then they followed by the ANC at 24.97. And interestingly, Good there at 3.46. So maybe a bit of a surprise for some, maybe not such a big surprise. But again, just looking comparatively, in 1999, of course, the DA wasn't there. 2004, 27.11. In 2009, they were at 51.46. And of course, in the last general election, they polled at 59.38% of the vote in that province. And this is where we are at right now, 58.81. But that is is the actual numbers. That's not a prediction at this stage.
Yes, that's what we have at this stage, and the predictions seem at 30% roughly when we last ran the model. The prediction seems to indicate that the DA will be standing at about 53%. So you compare that with the current 59% that shows on the actual. The model says it'll be about 53%.
So a slight decrease there for the DA in the Western
It may be a
Cape.
slight decrease.
All right, and more predictions there from CSIR's Dr. Ndumiso Cingo, and he's, of course, CSIR Strategic Partnership Manager, and we'll be having lots of predictions, lots of analysis as the numbers keep trickling in. But for now, let's take a quick break.